4 years ago in Liverpool, England, the Uganda national netball team, the She Cranes, embarked on a journey to conquer the world at the Netball World Cup. They finished 7th, and 4 years later, they started a new journey to try and scale heights unseen before. The She Cranes this time conquered Africa, returning #1 ranked on the continent and #5 in the world. Now, today on NBA Sports Profiles, we're joined by a superstar, a player who defended so elegantly and so proud of our hometown in Butaleja, a defender for the Makindye Bweyonja Netball Club, and also a player who plays basketball. We will be telling you her story today on NBA Sports Profile. My name is John Abiakutaga. Faridah, thank you for accepting to speak to NBA Sports. And this is NBA Sports Profile, where we tell your story, or you tell your story to the rest of the world. And for starters, welcome back from Cape Town.
Thank you so much.
It's I don't even know where to start from, because I have been a sports person my whole life. Yeah. I have never come close to what you've just accomplished, representing your country at a World Cup of any sport. Now listen, it sounds like it's a joke, but this is something huge. How do you feel about that?
It's so amazing, it's so exciting. I just can't explain the joy I have and the happiness and all the experiences that I got. But it is really a dream come true to me, because it has been my goal my whole career, since primary, secondary, university, and here I am. And I just concluded the World Cup successfully. So it's a very big success in my life.
The journey to the World Cup started with your first call-up when the team was traveling, I think, to England for some build-up friendly matches?
It was in Namibia.
In Namibia.
The first call-up was for the Namibia series and Africa Championship, though I didn't happen to play that time because we traveled 15 and the list needed 12, so I was on the reserve. So I didn't happen to play, but it was my first call, and I made it to the final list that was traveling.
That was in Namibia?
Yeah.
And that was, what year was that?
Namibia Test Series and the Africa Championship.
Okay, and how did the team fare in both those editions?
Uganda was the champion of the series, and then we came second of the Africa Championship, because that time South Africa beat us at the finals.
South Africa. We'll get into South Africa later on, on in the interview, and how sweet it was to get that revenge. But from there, you then traveled with the team to England for the build-up games right before the World Cup as well.
Yeah.
And you got a chance. Was that where you actually made your debut?
That was my first debut for the team.
Okay, so that was your first time to don the national team jersey and get onto court and actually
yeah, that
play
was
for
the first time, and it was super tough.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk the World Cup itself. Your journey now heading to Cape Town, of course, it started with the call-up to the squad. Initially, 20 girls were summoned, and that squad was to be cut down to 15.
Yeah.
Why, first of all, were you expectant to be included in those 20, let alone the final 15?
You know, when you're summoned to the national team, you need to have it in mind that you're the best, because they actually summon best players on the national team. I don't think they summon anyone that needs to be taught what to do all the time. They summon players who are not really doing bad in the Super League, whereby a coach doesn't have to teach you basic things like catching, jumping, you know. So when they summon you on the national team, you need to have faith, you need to have belief that you can make it to the final team. And this keeps you working so hard in the training that makes you make it to the final team. It has always been 12, but it's only this time around when it was 15. And that was very good, because it gives so many players chance to make it to the final list. Okay. And when I was summoned and when the training was starting, while you are training, you can feel yourself. You can feel it like you're going to make it to the final list, or you can make it.
And you felt that way from the start?
Yeah, I felt it, because you can look at the training sessions, competitions, and then you feel like the competition here, I feel like I can make it. Then sometimes you feel like you can't make it. So when you're there, sometimes you feel like you can make it, then you have to increase on the working. You have to add on your push. You have to go harder than you've been working, because always when you have hope, you need to keep going.
How did you start playing netball, first of all?
I was in primary 5 when she actually came as a teacher. She was...
Who's this she?
She's called Tamit Joweria.
Okay.
She's some lady there in Butadeja.
She was your teacher?
Yeah, she was just a teacher. She didn't come to the school as a coach.
Okay.
She was, you know, in primary, most of the time they transfer teachers from different schools to do. So she came as a teacher, and then she was in our class teaching English. But I think she saw I was, first of all, I was good in class. I was
in academics, yeah?
Yeah. And then she looked at my height. I think when she looked at my height, she felt I could make it, I could play netball. And since she was actually the only teacher in the whole district that could train better netball. So then she comes in the evening after class and she tells me, can we go to the netball court? I was like, but I've never played netball. Then she told me, you can play. I got excited because it was my first, you know, in schools, there are always those girls who feel like they are the best, they can do everything, where they don't even allow these others to come in. So I always never had chance to go to the netball court because of those other big girls that were playing. But when she told me to go to the netball court, we started training slowly. She told me these basic things, slowly. I started learning. Then she actually put me to the school team. I started netball I started with defense. School. Yeah, okay. In primary 5. It was defense, goalkeeper, goal defender, right from primary.
Something special about defensive players.
Yeah, and then we started playing school competitions, you know, and then when we went for, I was in primary 6 when I last played my primary school game, because when I was in P7. We didn't happen to go for the national primary schools because there was no money, you know, those things.
Money for the
so
school
when
to
we
be
played,
able to,
when we played in the primary finals for the district, we were actually competing between my school and the school where she came from. So it was super competitive, you know. And then that is when I think she started believing that I can be a good player, because we won, but it was by 1.
Yeah, very close game.
Yeah, it was so close.
So when you moved from primary school to secondary school, do you continue playing? At what point did you realize that, you know what, I can actually push myself and maybe play for a club? I know at that point you're not thinking the country, but you're thinking maybe I could actually do something with myself in netball.
Actually, this thing of club didn't come so fast like that, because when I was in primary, in my senior 1, I didn't know so much about netball, to be honest. I actually didn't know there are clubs that play netball. I didn't know there was a super league for netball. I only knew there was a national team because, you know, people keep talking about it. The She Cranes are traveling, they are doing this. So when I was in my senior 1, I was just playing for the school, not knowing that I would be this successful in my career. Because
and which school was this at this point?
This was Hamdan Girls School,
okay,
in Mbale.
In Mbale.
Yeah, for my senior 1. And I was just playing, you know, going to play because you have to play. I didn't know there was this much success in netball. And then when we went for the secondary school competitions, that was in Mbale. Yeah, they were in Mbale. And this is when the Chibuli SS school, their scouts found out I could do better netball.
So wait a minute. Chibuli is known as a school that plays football. They also send scouts to watch netball players?
Yeah.
You remember his name?
He's called Abdallah something. He died, by the way. So unfortunately.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I was going to say you owe him a lot when you make it to the UK, when you become pro next year.
He's no more. It feels so
sorry
bad.
about that. Yeah, sure.
So when he came to me, I was super excited to come to Kampala, to be honest, because all my big sisters and my siblings were studying in Kampala.
And you had never been to Kampala before?
Yeah, I'd never been to Kampala before, so I always wanted to travel with them, because they would always come this side and I was taking the other side of Mbale, and I was always alone. There were like 4 or 5, and I always felt like I missed the company of traveling with them. And then they took me to the games teacher, that is Madam Mande Amina. She was the patron of netball, and then Mr. Kasuja was the sports teacher. So they took me to them. They started telling me, can you join Chibuli? You can play netball, you know, all those things. I accepted. Because when they came to me, the fact that I was excited, I immediately had to tell my parents, I am going to Kampala.
So Chibuli was offering you a full scholarship?
Yeah.
That's education, everything,
everything.
uniforms, everything.
I only had to take myself there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you moved to Chibuli next time?
Yeah, I moved to Chibuli for my senior too. And when I reached Chibuli, I was benched for 3 years actually, because I went to Chibuli in my senior 2 up to senior 4.
By benching, you meant you were a substitute player. You could not start games.
Not even substitute. I couldn't even play. They never believed I could play. Because
so didn't you ask yourself, then why did they bring me if they're not planning on playing me?
The fact that I didn't know netball would bring me to this success, I wasn't bothered.
You were grateful already that you had a good school?
First of all, it was a good school. Yeah. They were giving me everything. So, and also I was still young in mind, because I was, you know, senior 1, senior 2, you're still a little girl. You never mind whether you're playing or you're not playing. And the fact that I didn't know I would make it to the national team, and they were giving me everything in school, I only thought about studying. And
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
So you get done with Chibuli. Where do you move next after that?
When I got done with Chibuli, I started feeling like I could play netball. Because where I got this from is whenever we traveled with the school team, and I could see those other girls shining, I started feeling like I needed to shine too. And then after that, I went to Luyan's College, Boyogere.
Why Chibuli didn't give you a chance to stay for HSC?
They gave me the chance. They had even actually refused to give me my pass slips by telling me I was going to play
on the team.
But I had sat for 3 years not playing, you know.
So you moved to Luyan's in Boyogere because there was a chance to play netball there?
Yeah, there was a chance to play. And there was this coach, he's called Coach Jesse, the coach of my netball club. When he came to me after my senior 4, they actually came to me when I was in senior 4 when we were 4 games. They started telling me, can you join Luyan's? Because in Chibuli you're not playing, and you know. And I already had it in mind that I was going to leave Chibuli because I felt like at some point I needed to shine. Yeah. And they gave me a chance to join
Just
their
like
school.
a football transfer where they come to you and say, listen, come to our club, we're going to give you more minutes.
Yeah.
And then you decide I'm moving. Wow.
And then
so you moved to Luyan's?
I moved to Luyan's. But I wasn't even a good player then. I was trying defense, but I wasn't this good.
This good, yeah.
Yeah, but this coach gave me his time. And
so is that where you make the transition from secondary school to now playing for a club? At what point did you transit now to joining into club?
It was after senior 6, that is when I started playing club netball. Because he never allowed us to play club netball while in school because of the restrictions and license things. And you know, when a club takes you to play for them once, they'll always take it forever that you're their player, and when you happen to find another club, they never give you a chance to transfer. That is how I joined his club, Weyonje Netball Club. That's
Makindye Weyonje Netball Club. And that's why you are playing up to now.
Yeah.
How many years has that been?
Since 2021, 2019 up to now.
So about 3-4 years.
Yeah.
So you've not had the bigger, more established teams, KCCA, Nick, try to approach you and ask you to move? All
of the clubs here have approached me.
And you've simply said, no, I'm not going anywhere?
Yeah, because at some point I sat down and thought and felt it wasn't about money. There are better clubs because they have better facilitation than Match India. I accept that because it's a fact. But you know, sometimes when you have a goal, there are some things you don't have to consider. If I had considered money than my career, I would be in those clubs, and I don't think I would be here.
Yeah.
Because those clubs had better players than me back then. And whenever I looked at them and I judged myself and them, it wasn't matching up. I felt like I would still go through what I went through when I was in Chibuli. That means I would sit on bench, and you know, I would not have time for the national team to scout me out. So I had to start Match India for a few years with my coach.
grow with him.
Grow with him, and he always told me, you can make it to the national team. Never mind the club, whether you're in a small club, you're still. He actually always told me a fact. Your netball is still here to go to those bigger clubs. So that means when you go there, you're gonna sit down, and it's gonna go down every day.
Yeah.
So this is how he kept telling me to work hard. And
before we move back into the netball and the World Cup, you mentioned Butaleja, you mentioned your sisters. Just share with us where you come from, home, in terms of family. You've mentioned your sisters, so I imagine you must be close to them. You mentioned Butaleja, you didn't really mention the parents. Just a quick story about your background and your from home in Butaleja.
I come from Butaleja, just like you asked that question, and my father is called Pinde Muhammad. He was a dentist, but he retired some time back. He actually retired when I was in primary school, if I can remember very well. And I went to UPE school because I couldn't afford the school fees for the private schools, you know. And all my sisters, the one I follow and the one that follows me, were doing netball. We were doing netball in primary and secondary, but after their secondary, they didn't happen to continue with their netball. I think maybe they felt like they cannot make it, I don't know. But I always had a positive mind of making it to the national team.
So how many sisters are those?
There are two.
So you're just 3 girls?
No.
Yeah.
These are the only girls that
Netballers.
were doing netball.
Okay,
Yeah.
in your family?
Yeah,
Okay.
but we're around 8 girls.
8 girls.
Yeah.
And how many boys?
Wow.
No boy?
I can't remember, but they're also around 8 or 9 or 10. I don't know.
Okay, so that's
Because
about 18.
my dad has 2 wives, and
Okay.
the other mother has mostly boys and 2 girls.
Okay, so
And
from
my
your
mom
mother
has only 1 boy
and 8 girls.
and 5 girls.
Five girls and 1 boy from your mother. Then
Yeah.
so that's about maybe 18, give or
Yeah.
take. So how close are you to your parents? And did they have any impact on you playing netball?
Yeah. When I remember very well, let me take you back slowly. When I was in primary and I was doing netball in my secondary O level, this teacher of mine that taught me netball always believed I could play. So whenever there was any small tournaments anywhere and they needed netballers to go and maybe play, she always called me. She always called my parents to allow me to go and play netball. And my father would always take me by the roadside to go and take a taxi or a boda to go and play. And sometimes he used to come to watch those games.
Your dad?
Yeah. Because he knew he had a daughter there. And when my mom, sometimes, you know, mothers, when they want you to do home chores, they tend to put some small term into before
you
you
want to
go
play netball.
fetch water. And then there is this day that she told me, you have to do the chores before you go, you know. But the fact that I'm the last born on her side, I'm the last born to my mom. So there's a day she told me to actually do the chores before I go. And then my dad was like, but she's going to be late. You know, my dad has always been on my side, and this is why I keep saying he has been my motivation. And then I told my mom, netball gulinga muzimu. So I have to go immediately.
You get possessed.
She got pissed off because I said that to her. Yeah. But she didn't get pissed because njogedde chibi, but it's because she needed me to do the chores, and my dad was on my side.
So she didn't mind you playing, but she wanted you to first do chores before you could go play.
It's because, and my dad was always on my side, telling me, yambala ogende, yambala. And for her, she was saying, taina jalaga. So this is how I find my dad so encouraging to me always. He has been there for me. Even when we go for these tournaments, I'm this big, but he keeps telling me, webale kurana mwana wange, you know, those things of telling your daughter you're good, you've made it, you know, you can make it more and more. And he actually keeps telling me every time we're moving out of this country, I go with his heart. And when we come back, the first thing he says is, you've come back with my heart. Because he doesn't know what I do. He doesn't even watch my games. And the fact that he has got an eye problem, he's losing his sight. And
when you say that, you mentioned somewhere else that he had an eye problem and wasn't able to watch. He didn't get to watch any of the World Cup games that you
No,
played.
he didn't.
Okay, but he would probably the people around were watching the game and they would tell him that she's on, she's playing.
He could actually get the information from the town when he goes to town, maybe to move around, walk around with his friends, and people could say, "We have been here watching your daughter play." And he would always feel good. He would always actually call my sisters here to call me and tell me he was happy for me.
Yeah. So when you left, though, he didn't have an eyesight problem. He was okay.
It's only, no. He wasn't okay. Actually, I got to know they told me he had an eye problem a day before we traveled, and that broke me down, to be honest. But I just had to go strong. He first called me himself, telling me his eye had a problem. The left side eye. He was telling me he could not see well. He couldn't even recognize who was calling. He can't even see something that. So when he told me that, I had to tell him to first wait for me to travel. Then when I come back, I can bring him to the hospital this side. And then. Oh,
he was in Butaleja.
Yeah, he's even there right now.
Okay.
So when I traveled, it was on my mind all the time. Because those things need immediate treatment and medication, so someone can get well. And they kept telling me every day, he cries of his eye, he cries of his eye. So, and I kept telling him that I have no option. I can't access money. I can't do anything right now.
While you're that side in Cape Town.
Apart from only when I come back. Until I come back, that is when I can be able to
support.
Yeah. And when I came back, I called him when I was still at the airport, and I wanted to know about the eye because they had told me he was supposed to come on Monday for the operation. But again, for them, they just say someone is coming for operation before they know what the problem is. But I had to first talk to him because we need to take him for assessments. We need to know where the problem is coming from. And this is why he's not yet here for the operation, but he will come soon.
We were so proud sitting back in Uganda and watching you guys every day in the middle of the day, because the games were most times in the middle of the day, in the evening hours, and we all found ourselves on the TV screens. Even people who had no clue about netball now have an idea of what netball is.
Yeah.
And we watched you guys. Of course, we knew New Zealand, Australia, Jamaica, like they say, are very good teams. But we thought, guys, we finished 7th in the last World Cup. We could have been ranked 6th going into this World Cup if we hadn't missed a couple of series and games that would have improved our ranking. So we thought we were good enough, maybe, to maintain 7th place. But what you guys went and did down there, you beat the host nation who had defeated you just 2 days earlier. They had the momentum, they had the home crowd, they had everything working for them. But you guys came back in the most decisive game on the last day of the tournament, battling for 5th and 6th place, battling for 5th place actually.
Yeah.
And you managed to beat them. How does it feel now being the number 1 ranked team in Africa and number 5 in the world?
I don't know what I can say about that, but it's super exciting. It is a very big success a country like Uganda can have, depending on our facilitation and everything. You go to compete with a team that is fully well facilitated, well paid, well everything. And then you come out number 5. This is something that is so exceptional. And whenever Uganda is playing against South Africa, even when it's just or test series or Africa Championship, it's always a battle to really tell who is the real queen of Africa. And when we played the first game, you remember we had 2 games with South Africa. The first game, it was super tough. I hope you all watched. By the end of the first half, it was
at halftime
17, a range of 17
at halftime,
and we were crying at halftime
in the locker room.
Yeah, but we were crying knowing, well, we had more.
You mean crying, actual tears?
Real crying, like people crying. To be honest, we cried because we were not believing. Not at least it's not for us as the players, we believe it's not South Africa to do that to us. Because
I mean, if it's New Zealand, Australia, fine.
it's not fine because we can't accept that to happen.
And especially another African team doing that to you.
And mostly an African team to do that to the She Cranes. No, it can't. We were crying because it was so painful. We cannot believe South Africa can lead us by a range of 17. Really, no. And the reason we were crying is, first of all, we didn't have funds. We had to motivate ourselves. Secondly, people were back home. There are people who were not believing in us. People were saying we couldn't play. We couldn't even leave the group stages. We were a small team, you know, because most of the players were. It was the first time, not only the World Cup, but it was actually a debut of everything.
I think only 2 players in that team, Mary Nuba and someone else,
Stella Nafuka,
are the only 2 who had played at the previous
The rest
World
had never played in the World Cup. So people were not believing we could play. And you know, when people don't believe in you and you truly fail, it's so painful. That means you're proving them right. You know, they start believing what their perceptions are. And this is what was hurting players.
So that motivated you to come back. Eventually you lost that game by just 2. I think it ended 50-52. Was that the game that made you believe that, you know what, we still have another chance to play them again? I think you were playing Wales next, who you knew you would probably beat comfortably, but then you knew you were then going to have to play again against South Africa.
You know, Coach Mugera is a very positive man. He called all the players in the dressing room, actually plus Mary Nuba. Mary Nuba is a very big motivation to us. They kept telling us, you know, Coach told us, stop crying, you still have more 2 quarters. I know this is a big shame if we lose by this range, but you can fight back and win that game. So we all went on court knowing we are only fighting back to win the game. And it happened that we lost by 2. But, you know, Mary can tell you, Mary can really, even when you feel like you cannot make it, she will show you a way that you can make it. Mary told us, you know, guys, we haven't lost this game. We have not yet lost the game. It's not yet done until the last whistle. And then she told us to go and play netball, play our game. You know when you're losing by that range, you get beaten by the players on court, beaten by the crowd, beaten by the umpires, beaten because if you're not mentally strong, you lose it all. But we went back fighting for the win because we believed South Africa could not beat Uganda.
All right.
This is why we actually fought back to that range. They actually felt bad. South Africans really felt bad because they didn't believe what was happening. If we had like more extra, like 2 or 1 minute, we were actually going to win that game.
So Faridah, as we come to the end of our conversation, and you mentioned a bit about the payment of Coach Fred Mugera, very painful, and I can imagine he's done a job, is our best ever performance, and then you come home, no pay. But I imagine that's going to be managed, but at least the girls, for a change, we're not hearing complaints about players not being paid. Have you guys actually been paid? Let's even start there. I might assume that you've been paid, yet there's no money that has come yet.
We have actually been paid, and this time around we were paid on time. We were paid when we were still in South Africa.
There were so many stories about the leadership. The federation head was imprisoned right before the preparations of this tournament. Eventually, she made her way, from what I gather, on her own and managed to get to Cape Town and support the girls. As players, did that impact you guys, whether positively or negatively? I know you don't want to get into the politics and to get involved in the arguments that are going on in the camp, but did it affect you guys as a team in any kind of way?
Well, all I can say is it's not healthy and it's not good for anyone to ever go to jail. That is what pains everyone in Uganda, because I don't think prison is a good thing for anyone. And for that, I guess so many people felt bad, because even as players, we felt bad. It's not because we have a side or we're siding with anyone, or we are just players. Whoever comes in shall take on. Yeah, but it was so painful to most of the people in the country to see that she was in jail.
But she has the support of the team.
You know, when someone is already in leadership, at times when you actually have no option. You have to bear whatever they go with. If they tell you go here, you have to. It's like having a job and your boss is telling you, go and do this. You have to do that.
But as players, you have no problem with the leadership that she
We have
had
no problem.
before.
We have no
Right.
problem, and for that reason, we were not affected in any way for the games.
You just kept your eyes.
We kept
on the
our
target.
games on the ball because we knew we needed to change, first of all, to change the position, the ranking of Uganda. It had dropped so down. We cannot be number 8 after being this way up. We actually needed to get back to our position or change it. So this is what was on our minds as the players and the coaches, We kept training and going hard, thinking about netball all the time.
Before we conclude, I just want you to send a message out to the young girls, like I mentioned, who are out there watching us, and perhaps even to your family. Any message that you'd want them to carry from this interview?
To every woman, every girl, child out there, I keep saying this so many times that whatever your mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. So if you feel like you can do netball, actually, before I go to the children, let me take this to parents out there. If you have a child out there and she or he feels like he can play football, play netball, any talents that they can do, please support them. There's a tendency of parents and people in Uganda thinking like, when a child starts going for sports, they're actually going to get spoiled. But I'm here, I can be a live example. I'm not spoiled in any way because I don't do drugs. I'm not a prostitute. I'm not dormant, So that means any child can achieve in their goals. If you have a child out there and they feel like they have a talent where they can go and achieve, please support them, be there for them, just keep guiding them, tell them what to do and what not to do. This will help them get successful and make it to where they feel like they want to be. And also the child, please keep fighting so hard for your goals and keep working every day. And anytime you feel like you want to go and practice what you feel like you want to achieve, please get up and go work hard because nothing comes on a silver plate. You have to work hard every day to achieve your goals.
Family, loyalty, success. The story of Faridah Kadondi, a defender with the She Cranes, a national netball team for Uganda. And also the same story, family, loyalty, success with NBA Sport. It's NBA Sports Profile. We will see you next time.